Alrighty, so I'm going to walk over the Unit 3 slides with you. Unit 3 is on homeostasis in the human body. We know that homeostasis means the same state. So this is the process of keeping the internal body, or maybe it's a human, maybe it's a single cell, maybe it's an animal, maybe it's a plant, whatever it is. It's keeping it in a steady state. So that when the external environment is changed, the internal environment stays the same or as close to the same as possible. This allows for many different systems in the body to work perfectly, specifically enzymes. You got to keep them at the same temperature and the same pH. Keeps them fine-tuned to a particular set of conditions and to operate more efficiently. So in order to maintain homeostasis, cells must be able to detect and respond to change. And we're going to talk about the two ways that humans detect and respond to change. How do our cells do that? There's two systems. I'll just tell you. The nervous system and the endocrine system. Those are the two ways that our cells communicate with each other to do that. Okay. Cell communication. So these are some things you know. Here's a cell, okay? Cells don't really look like this, but we don't care because it's just a drawing. So this is a cell. This is the nucleus of a cell. On the membrane of the cell, of every single cell in your body, there are receptors. Receptors are like locks, okay? And when the key, which is the ligand in this case, fits in the lock, which is the receptor, it sends some sort of a signal to the cell. Could be anything. There's so many different types of signaling pathways. The one we talk about the most in this unit is insulin. Binding the insulin receptor causes a door to open up over here so that glucose can go in. But you just need to know receptors are large protein molecules, so they're made of amino acids. They sit in the cell membrane, okay? And they're like the lock. The ligand, what we're going to be talking about most of this unit are ligands being hormones or ligands being neurotransmitters, bind to the receptor, and they cause some sort of action. Something happens when those two bind. It's kind of incredible. These ligands come through your bloodstream or your nervous system or your endocrine system. All right. So control of homeostasis. Homeostasis, we use this example a lot. I like this. So homeostasis is just trying to keep you stable, right? So it is called feedback, specifically negative feedback, but mostly remember feedback. This is in order to get you back to the set point. So when you set your thermostat in your house, this is in Celsius, but let's say for us, say we want it to be 70 degrees Celsius all the time in your house. When your house gets too cold, your heat switches on to get you back to 70. And when your house gets too hot, your heat turns off to get you back to 70. Okay, so those are, this is called a dynamic equilibrium. Okay, so your house is getting hotter and it's getting colder and it's getting hotter and it's getting colder. Oh, there's the bell. Hope you guys are not late for class. So hotter and colder, but it's trying to keep us right around the same level. Okay, that's homeostasis. This happens in your body, not just your house. Your nervous system detects whether or not the temperature of your blood and then changes. Your body reacts to that temperature change by either shivering or sweating or whatever to bring you back to your normal temperature. Okay, here's another example of feedback that you'll definitely see at some point. These are guard cells. They're in the bottoms of plants. Remember we did that lab where we covered them with nail polish and we could actually see how many were open and how many were closed? So this is how plants maintain homeostasis with water and prevent water loss and maintain proper levels of gases. They can be open, right? But then if it's a hot or dry day and the plant is concerned that it's going to lose too much water, they'll close, okay? So they can open and close, and they can allow oxygen and carbon dioxide to be exchanged, and they can allow water to come in when it's needed, but it doesn't want too much water, doesn't want too much oxygen, doesn't want too much carbon dioxide. So guard cells and the opening, which is called the stomata, help to maintain homeostasis in plants. Alrighty, the first system that humans use to communicate is your nervous system. Okay, your nervous system. I kind of come zip through here. Okay, so they both secrete chemical messengers. Okay, this is how they're the same. Then they both secrete chemical messengers. In the nervous system, these chemical messengers are called neurotransmitters. And in the endocrine system, these chemical messengers are called hormones. Okay, these are two different systems. They both play a role in homeostasis. You know what? I should really have a picture of your endocrine system in here. Okay. Nervous systems responses are very fast. Endocrine responses are slow, sometimes over days or maybe even a week. Nervous responses are very short in duration than endocrine responses. Endocrine's responses are very longer. So neurotransmitters are fast and they don't last that long. And endocrine signaling takes a long time, but it lasts longer. All right, just here's some more pictures of cells and receptors that are ready to bind to any ligand that needs to come by. Is this ligand going to bind into that receptor? Nope, doesn't fit, right? But it will bind to this receptor, which does fit, and it'll cause some action within the cell. Just some examples of things that are regulated by hormones and neurotransmitters. All right, so your nervous system. I'm going to skip. Oh, wait, this guy is my favorite. I'm just going to play it.
All right. I'm going to say that alligators are ornery because they got all their teeth but no toothbrush.
All right, that's enough of that. Okay. So your nervous system is, you don't need to know all the details of your brain or really any of these specific types of neurons. I've got a lot of neurons in here showing where the main neurons that are going down your spinal cord interact with your organs. You don't need to know those. The main thing that you should know that the autonomic nervous system consists of muscles that control the involuntary muscles. This word autonomic looks a lot like the word automatic. These are things you don't even think about. They're just automatic, like your heartbeat and your breathing. You don't lay awake at night going, all right, and I have to breathe in, I have to breathe out, I have to breathe in. No, those are automatic. So they're controlled by your autonomic nervous system. Somatic is voluntary. Okay, that's like if you decide to raise your hand in class because you have the correct answer because you're so smart. Okay, so somatic is voluntary. Autonomic is just like automatic. Involuntary. All right, you can watch some of these if you want, but you don't have to. You should know kind of what a neuron looks like. This is a cell in the nervous system. They have their nucleus. They have an axon. Okay, they have these axon terminals, dendrites. These are involved in receiving signals. These are involved in sending signals, and they're covered with this myelin. You don't really need to know that. You just need to know that this is where the signal goes in, and this is where the signal goes out to find a new cell. Okay, neurons don't actually touch each other. You're going to see a picture like this for sure on your test. Here's an axon sending a signal to another neuron, the dendrite of another neuron. This is a receptor. Looks like the ligand or the neurotransmitter is a perfect shape. It's going to fit right in there and send a signal to there. So this space is called a synapse. You should just be able to recognize that word. It's the space between neurons. They don't actually touch. All right, and each neurotransmitter has a specific receptor because we know that they have to be the same shape or they won't fit. If you look really close into this, you can see there's all different shaped neurotransmitters, but they are not all going to bind to the same receptors. Depends on the shape. Okay, so endotherms, warm-blooded, their body temperature can be controlled internally. We're endotherms. We're warm-blooded. We don't necessarily have to put on 17 layers of clothes to maintain a normal body temperature. Our body helps us do this for us. Ectotherms, also called cold-blooded animals, need to be kept in a constant temperature or they will disrupt homeostasis, which basically means die. And that's that. Okay. All right, so you should know that your set point is 37-ish Celsius and 98.6 in mammals. However, this set point can change. If you're sick, your body actually raises your temperature on purpose. This is to help you kill bacteria and viruses. Okay, so your body actually increases your set point on purpose because it wants you to be hot, because it knows that that will disrupt the homeostasis of your bacteria and the viruses that are trying to take over your body. Okay, so if you're too hot, if your body temperature increases, cooling mechanisms are activated like sweating or taking off your sweatshirt, or the hairs on your body will lie flat. That actually causes your body temperature to decrease, right? But then if it goes too low, you might start shivering, putting on more clothes. The hairs on your arms might stand up, and then your body temperature increases. We're all just trying to maintain homeostasis and bring you back to this nice, lovely temperature of 98.6 or 37 degrees Celsius. Moving right along. All right, so thermoregulation has to do with your nervous system. Your brain actually detects the temperature of your blood, and it tells the hairs on your arms what to do. It tells you to shiver. That's all nervous system, okay? But an example of endocrine signaling is blood sugar regulation, okay? We don't need to know too much about the details. We should know that Benedict's is how we test for sugar. We did that a couple of times this year. And this is a typical blood sugar graph of how your blood sugar changes throughout the day. So you eat breakfast, your blood sugar goes up because your body's digesting carbohydrates that it's breaking down into glucose that get into your bloodstream. But then after you use up some of that glucose, your blood sugar goes down. Then you eat lunch, and goes back up again, and then it goes down. Then you eat your evening meal, which I'm going to call dinner, and your blood sugar goes up, and then it goes down and down and down and down a little bit until this is when you're sleeping, and then you eat breakfast and it all starts again, okay? So this is your body's way of trying to maintain homeostasis. Maybe the set point for this person is around 7 millimoles per liter of sugar, okay? So it's right around here, okay? So the levels go up and down, but they always try to get back to the same. Okay, so watch this video. I'm not going to play the whole thing and videotape it because that would be silly, but watch this video. It shows insulin binding to receptors in cells and allowing glucose to get in, which is really important. Okay, this is also a really important slide. You should really know all this. If you have high blood sugar, okay, that means there's too much sugar in your blood. It's not in your cells. It's floating around in your blood. Okay, if your body will detect that. That causes, if you have too much sugar floating around in your blood, that can make you sick. So your body promotes insulin release, which happens in the pancreas. Okay, so your body's going to produce insulin. That's a hormone that binds to receptors in cells, which causes them to open the door to glucose. So these cells are now going to take in all of the glucose. Okay, now the sugar in your blood is lower. The sugar in your cells is higher, which is where you want it to be. And then this all together contributes to a lower level of glucose that's in your blood, okay, which is all good. If you have low blood sugar, if you start with low blood sugar, say you haven't eaten and you're starving and you don't have any sugar in your digestive system, this stimulates your endocrine system to produce glucagon from your pancreas. Okay, so this is another hormone. Glucagon is another hormone. If the amount of sugar in your blood is too low, that means there's no sugar available to go into your cells, which means your cells can't do cellular respiration. Okay, so your pancreas is going to produce glucagon. That glucagon is going to stimulate your liver to take some glycogen. This is basically sugar that's stored in these large molecules. The glucagon stimulates your liver to take glycogen and break it back down and get into glucose. Okay, and then that glucose goes into your bloodstream, so it raises your blood sugar. All right, so two hormones, both secreted by the pancreas, regulate blood sugar. Glucagon is produced when your blood sugar is too low, causes a conversion of glycogen back to glucose. Insulin is produced when your blood sugar is too high and takes some of that glucose out of the blood into the tissue cells. Also, if there's more left after that, it'll store it as glycogen in the liver for later when your blood glucose is too low. All right, chemical bonds. This is where the energy is stored, right in there in the chemical bonds of glucose. Okay, but we try to maintain homeostasis of blood glucose. This is a picture of glycogen. I really love this picture. Each one of these is a different glucose molecule. There's a protein core, and then these are all little tiny, tiny sugars all lined up. So this is how your body stores glucose if you have excess. I'm not going to go over this, but it's let's go over it. All right. So when your blood sugar is too high, your body makes insulin, which helps bring it back down. Blood sugar gets too low, your body's going to make glucagon, which helps bring it back up. Okay. And this cycles and cycles, trying to keep you as close to this homeostatic set point as possible. All right. Circulatory system and respiratory system. Very important point. The circulatory and respiratory system works together in a dynamic way. That means changing to maintain oxygen and carbon dioxide levels in the human body. Like thermoregulation and blood glucose, this is another example of maintaining homeostasis. You have to have the right amount of oxygen and the right amount of carbon dioxide. All right, you can watch some of these videos. So we have to get oxygen from the air into the blood. Okay, this is important. We need it in the blood so that it can travel to the cells, so it can undergo cellular respiration to produce ATP, which is the most usable energy form in our bodies. And we also need to take out carbon dioxide waste. This is very important. If we build up carbon dioxide waste in our muscle cells while we're exercising or anything, this can be toxic and it could actually, this is an excess waste product that we need to get rid of. Moving gases like this is called gas exchange. That makes sense. We're taking in oxygen, getting rid of carbon dioxide. All right, so just kind of have to remember, I don't know why, I still don't know where this came from. Pigs, lactose, pharynx, larynx, trachea. So we've got the sinuses. This is where your air comes in through your nose and your sinuses, where it gets filtered and warmed. And your pharynx, your larynx, your trachea, your bronchial tube. Then once it gets into your bronchial tube, if we look up close, then it goes into your bronchioles. And then finally, the wonderful alveoli, which is where the oxygen actually gets exchanged for carbon dioxide. So if we blew up this little picture, this is the alveolus. Oxygen comes in, binds to the red blood cells. The oxygen gets carried out to the rest of the body. Okay, but after it runs out of oxygen over here, okay, it goes down to your legs and your toes, and it comes back, has no oxygen left. Okay, so now it has no oxygen left, but there is carbon dioxide in the blood now, okay, because we picked up the waste products. Now the carbon dioxide is going to go out, okay, and then in this next breath, more oxygen is going to come in. So it's a constant flow of oxygen coming in, carbon dioxide going out to maintain homeostasis. You really don't need to know this stuff. I don't know. Diaphragm, that's a muscle that pushes your lungs up and down to bring air in and out. All right, now we're into the heart. The heart is part of your circulatory system, okay? So you breathe in, you get the oxygen into your lungs through your respiratory system. Then that oxygen needs to get down to your toes and your muscles and your calves and all of your cells in your entire body. The circulatory system brings it to them. Okay, it also brings nutrients from your digestive system to all of those cells. But your circulatory system, its job is to just move stuff around your body. Okay, it picks up oxygen in the lungs, the heart. The blood picks up oxygen in the lungs, then goes to the rest of the body, and it picks up waste from the other body's tissues. You should know that arteries go away from the heart and veins go to the heart. Okay, arteries away. Somebody told me something in Spanish with vein. What was it? Venir? Does that mean return? If that means return, then somebody told me that veins and venir meant return, but don't quote me on that. I'm not a Spanish teacher. Okay, so your heart is made up of muscles. I'm just going to kind of skip through this for now. Okay, because I just want to get to this very, very important diagram. Okay, you do have to know that blood coming back from your body. Okay, this blood has no oxygen when it comes back from your body. It just dropped it all off at the cells. But what does it have? It has carbon dioxide, right? We need to get rid of that carbon dioxide and pick up more oxygen. So the blood's going to come back from your body. It's going to come in on the right side because we know right return, right? R for right, R for return. That's the side that the blood returns to from your body to your heart. So blood that doesn't have oxygen is coming in through your anterior vena cava and your posterior vena cava. And it's going to come into the right side of your heart for right return. Still doesn't have any oxygen, too much carbon dioxide. It cannot wait to get to the lungs. Now it's in the lungs. It's going to pick up more oxygen. It's going to drop off more carbon dioxide. And it's going to come back to the left side of the heart, the atrium, and then the ventricle. Okay, now it's full of oxygen. And it got rid of all the carbon dioxide, so it is ready to go. And it's going to take the blood to the rest of the body. Okay. The arteries were not drawn in the. I like this picture too. So usually you'll see like the arteries or the aorta is going to come up here. I call this the anterior vena cava. It's the inferior, not the anterior. Okay. So increase of carbon dioxide is actually decreased to. We don't need to know this. Skipping. Okay. Is that it? All right. That's not that hard. You guys are going to do great. Let me know if you have any questions. I sure hope this was recording. All right. Bye.